Hello YouTube friends, this is Dr. Teresa Ulrich here, and this is part one of my series, my 12-part series that I have put together comparing large seahorses and dwarf seahorses to help you in your decision-making process if you're thinking about acquiring seahorses. Last time I just shared a little introduction that the series was coming out. I'll link that introduction below. But I wanted to say first, before we get deep into the series, that you should be aware that seahorse keeping is very expensive. If you've never kept saltwater fish or seahorses before, you need to be aware of some of the things that are going to cost quite a bit of money up front. So let's start with the seahorses themselves. First of all, seahorses, whether you buy the dwarf or the larger species, are very expensive. In fact, saltwater fish in general are much more expensive compared to freshwater fish or tropical fish. So whereas you may spend a few dollars per fish, you're spending tens of dollars, even into hundreds of dollars per individual seahorse. So you do need to be prepared for that large cost differential. Additionally, you have to make sure you have an appropriate size aquarium. And if you don't already have one, you may have to make a purchase. And the components that go with it, for example, if you decide to buy a lid or lighting that will go with the aquarium, and if you decide that you want some sort of stand for the aquarium, those are all investments that you're going to have to make above and beyond the cost of the seahorses themselves. There's an additional cost with the filtration equipment. Although with the dwarf seahorses you can get away with using a hang on the back traditional filter that many people are familiar with, or even a sponge filter depending on your setup, for the larger seahorses, those filtration systems will not even be close to sufficient. You're going to have to invest in something minimally, such as a high quality canister filter, or even better, some type of filter. And again, that is very costly and easily goes into the hundreds of dollars. Another thing to think about, it seems kind of small, but it does add up, is seahorses are saltwater fish. They're marine fish, and so they do live in salt water, and that means if you're going to keep seahorses, you are going to have to prepare homemade seawater for them. Most people, unless they live near a coast and can acquire ocean water on a consistent basis, will prepare their own salt water using synthetic sea salt. And that does add up over time, that cost of investing in large volumes of sea salt, and you will go through pretty decent sized volumes just because of the required water changes. That's just another cost factor, and that is going to be an ongoing cost. So unlike the initial investment of your seahorses, your aquarium, and your filtration equipment, hopefully you don't need to replace those very often, the synthetic sea salt will be an ongoing cost. Another thing that's different is that seahorses require special food. Seahorses cannot be fed flakes, and if you are working with wild-caught specimens, you will not be able to provide them with frozen food either. We'll talk more about the food options with the different kinds of seahorses further on down the series, but again, it does get to be expensive, and it's an ongoing cost, whether you're buying brine shrimp eggs or frozen shrimp or live shrimp. That is an ongoing cost that you'll have to continually invest for the lifetime of your seahorses. Another thing to think about is aquarium decor. And I know most of us we do think about aquarium decor, but we're going to have to be mindful and maybe purchase additional aquarium decor even if we already have some on hand, because we want to make sure that we're using decor that not only allows seahorses opportunities to grasp with their tail, but don't clutter up the tank and make it difficult to clean up the bottom very easily. And that's going to be very important for keeping the seahorses healthy. So aquarium decor will probably just be a single time investment, but again, it may be an additional investment that you had not thought about. Then finally, you may have additional supplements, or unfortunately, you may require medications for the seahorses because they do get sick at times. Any kind of additions that you might have, like water conditioners, any kind of chemical that you would use to maintain healthy water quality. Again, that, depending on what you use and if you find them necessary, can be an additional cost. So in all, when you think about the costs, you really want to be careful that you are looking at the big picture. It is not as simple as just buying a small aquarium and then housing seahorses in there and throwing in some flakes. It's a very complex system. This concludes part 1 of my 12-part series about comparing dwarf and large seahorse keeping. I hope you'll continue and follow me into part 2 of the series. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the announcement of part 2. I hope to see you then.